Welcome to our news update.
Today we have some interesting stories to share with you.
First up, Russia is outraged by the U.S. denying visas to Russian journalists. They have stated that they will not forget and will not forgive. Next, the owners of Dogmeat Farms are slamming the First Lady.
Moving on to
the latest news in Ukraine is that Russia is looking to recruit 400,000 volunteers to fight in Ukraine.
In addition,
Ukrainian forces have landed on the left bank of Kherson Oblast.
Meanwhile,
the U.S. has sent a Guantanamo detainee to Africa, stating that he is no longer a threat. Lastly, Russia is advising its citizens to avoid traveling to Canada, citing attacks. With that said, let's get started. Well, this is certainly a concerning development. It seems that tensions between the U.S. and Russia continue to escalate. And as we all know, a free press is essential to a functioning democracy. We cannot allow these kinds of actions to go unchecked.
Absolutely, Barack. It's important to remember that journalists are just doing their jobs. They shouldn't be punished for simply trying to report the news.
Indeed, Katie. As the great Mark Twain once said, if you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you read the newspaper, you're misinformed. But in all seriousness, this is a troubling situation.
I agree. It's important to remember that the actions of a few individuals should not reflect on an entire country. We need to find a way to de-escalate the situation before it gets out of hand.
Absolutely, Elon. And it's important to remember that diplomacy is key in situations like this. We need to find a way to work together to ensure that the free press is protected.
I couldn't agree more, Barack. And as someone who has been in the public eye for many years, I know firsthand the importance of a free press. We need to stand up for what's right.
Well said, Katie. And as someone who has spent his life studying the laws of the universe, I can tell you that the laws of diplomacy are just as important. We need to find a way to come together and work towards a peaceful resolution.
From one international incident to another, it seems like everyone is getting their feelings hurt these days. Speaking of hurt feelings, the owners of Dogmeat Farms are not happy with the First Lady's recent comments.
Well, folks, it looks like the First Lady is in hot water again. This time, for her comments on dog meat consumption in Korea.
Yes, Barack, it seems like the First Lady's comments have sparked quite the controversy.
I must say, I find it quite interesting that the owners of Dogmeat Farms are criticizing the First Lady for her comments. It seems to me that they are neglecting the fact that societal attitudes towards animals are shifting in modern Korea.
I agree, Albert. It's important to recognize that as a society, we are constantly evolving and changing our beliefs and values.
And let's not forget that the First Lady is entitled to her own opinions and beliefs. As the role of the First Lady is to support the President, it's important to recognize that she is doing just that by advocating for a ban on dog meat consumption.
Absolutely, Barack. And it's important to note that both ruling and opposition parties appear to support the First Lady's stance on this issue.
In this article from the Korea Times, the owners of Dogmeat Farms claim that banning dog consumption simply because an increasing number of people hate that culture is illogical. But I would argue that as a society, we have a responsibility to evolve and change our practices as we become more aware of the impact they have on the world around us.
Well said, Albert. It's important to recognize that our actions have consequences, and it's up to us to make responsible choices that benefit not only ourselves, but the world around us.
And now, from the controversy of dog meat to the chaos of war, because apparently, we just can't have nice things.
Hey guys, did you hear the one about the Russian oligarchs? They're so rich, they make Elon Musk look like a pauper.
Well, let's get down to business. In this article from VOA News, we see that Russia is looking to recruit 400,000 volunteers to fight in Ukraine. What do you guys make of this?
It's a troubling development, to be sure. It seems that Russia is doubling down on its aggression towards Ukraine.
Well, I for one am not surprised. Russia has always been a bit of a wild card. But I have to say, I'm impressed by their marketing campaign. Real men, indeed.
It's not just the marketing campaign that's concerning. Russia's billionaires are still raking in the cash, despite Western sanctions. It's clear that the sanctions aren't having the intended effect.
Maybe we should take a page out of Russia's book and start recruiting real men to fight climate change. I'm looking at you, Elon.
All joking aside, we need to take this situation seriously. The conflict in Ukraine has been going on for far too long, and it's time for a peaceful resolution. We can't let this escalate any further.
I couldn't agree more, Albert. We need to find a way to de-escalate the situation and work towards a peaceful solution. It won't be easy, but it's the only way forward.
Well, it looks like Russia might need those 400,000 volunteers after all because Ukrainian forces just landed on their doorstep. Talk about an unexpected housewarming party.
Breaking news, folks. Ukrainian forces have landed on the left bank of Kherson Oblast.
According to the Institute for the Study of War, Russian military journalists have confirmed that Ukrainian forces have taken up positions on the eastern bank of the Dnipro River.
This is a significant development in the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia.
Wow, Barack, you really know how to make an entrance. But seriously, this is a complex situation. Can you show us on the map where exactly this is happening?
Certainly, Katie. Kherson Oblast is located in southern Ukraine, bordering the Black Sea. It's a strategically important region, as it's a major transportation hub for goods and people traveling between Ukraine and Russia.
According to the ISW report, Ukrainian forces have been holding positions on the eastern bank of Kherson Oblast for several weeks now. They've established stable supply lines and are regularly carrying out combat tasks. It's unclear what their intentions are, but it's clear that they're not backing down.
So, what's Russia's response to this? Are they mobilizing their forces? From Ukrainian forces landing on the left bank of Kherson Oblast to a Guantanamo detainee being sent to Africa, it seems like everyone's getting a change of scenery these days.
Well, this is certainly a complex issue. As we all know, Guantanamo Bay has been a controversial topic for years. But let's focus on the news at hand. Said bin Brahim bin Umran Bakush has been released and sent back to Algeria. It's important to note that he was never charged with any crime, and the review board decided that he was no longer a threat to national security. This is a step in the right direction towards closing Guantanamo Bay.
It's interesting to see how the detention center has evolved over the years. From holding hundreds of inmates to now only 30, it's clear that there's been progress. But what about the remaining inmates? What's the plan for them?
Well, Katie, I'm sure the plan is to not keep them there forever. As they say, time is relative. But in all seriousness, it's important to find a solution for these remaining cases. It's not an easy task, but it's necessary for the sake of justice and human rights.
I agree with Albert. It's a difficult situation, but it's important to find a solution. And it's not just about the remaining inmates, it's also about the reputation of the United States. We need to show the world that we value human rights and justice.
Absolutely, Elon. And it's not just about closing Guantanamo Bay, it's also about addressing the issues of human rights abuses and constitutional violations that have been reported.
We need to hold ourselves accountable and make sure that justice is served.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm just glad that said bin Brahim bin Umran Bakush is finally able to start a new chapter in his life. Maybe he'll even find love and start a family, like he said he wanted to.
That's a nice sentiment, Katie. And it's important to remember that these are real people with real lives. We can't forget about their humanity in all of this. But we also can't forget about the bigger picture and the need for justice and accountability.
Well, it looks like one country's trash is another country's treasure. In other news, Russia is advising its citizens to avoid Canada, which is a shame because they'll miss out on the poutine.
Breaking news, Russia is advising its citizens to avoid traveling to Canada due to what they call numerous cases of discrimination against Russians, including physical violence.
This advisory was posted on the Russian Foreign Ministry's main Telegram channel on Saturday.
The Canadian Foreign Ministry has not yet commented on this issue.
Well, that's not very hot and cold of them, is it?
This is a concerning development. It is important to note that discrimination and violence against any group of people is unacceptable.
Maybe we should send some Teslas up there to smooth things over.
Canada has been a strong supporter of Ukraine in the ongoing conflict with Russia. It's possible that this advisory is a response to Canada's sanctions on Russian officials and companies.
I guess Russia won't be on my tour list anytime soon.
It's important to note that this news comes from Thomson Reuters, a reputable news source. We should continue to monitor the situation and hope for a peaceful resolution.